Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of The Drop. Greg Wyshynski, Arda Öcal, here with you every Tuesday and Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts, also the NHL on ESPN, YouTube. I'm not going to lie, Wish, I'm a little tired this morning as we record this podcast. Frozen Frenzy, we are still in the shadow of it. It was an excellent slice of hockey heaven. It was awesome. I had a great time in studio, and from the response online, dude, it seemed like everyone had a great time watching it as well. But definitely, it was a long night, but a very fulfilling one.
Now, as you may know, a plank in my platform for years, Arda, has been the idea that the playoffs should begin with a March Madness-like day of hockey. Like you start at noon, you skip work, you go to the bar with your buddies, you watch hockey all day. This was as close as we're getting to it, I think. Like, this was so much fun to sit and watch all those games stacked on top of each other. I read some people questioning whether hockey really translates well to that kind of format. And again, like you sit down and watch all those games, and shout out to our boys, John Buchagras and Kevin Weeks, for holding it down for as long as they did last night and making it interesting. But like once you sit down and watch all these games as they're going on, you start to realize, oh, there are a ton of events. There are a ton of goals, a ton of power plays, coaches' challenges. I hope everybody enjoyed playing the drinking game last night because there was a lot of drinks that happened. It was dope. and anytime we get a chance to do something where the feedback is overall positive, I think is a good night had by the folks at ESPN. And like, it was pretty positive last night. And I would be really surprised if we don't do it again.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we will certainly endeavor to at least try. I mean, I don't know anything, but I do know that in studio, there were a lot of special guests that came in and out, and were very impressed with what they saw and what was presented. Also, a couple clips I'd like to shout out online. I had a chance to sneak into the control room and show you all the organized chaos that was happening in there. So you can check that out on social media. It really is like a beautiful, organized frenzy is the right word to use. So definitely check that out. But also, the way the Frozen Frenzy broadcast started was with a drone shot. So it was like a really cool drone sequence. If you haven't seen that, definitely go and check it out. But yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool to be in studio again, for that.
I've said this a few times to people that have asked, but like, you know, one of the things I miss about life in a fractured media existence is the shared experience. Like we get it every year with the Super Bowl. Occasionally we get it with something like the Oscars. We get it with things like the Game of Thrones finale. But like last night was definitely, it felt like even more of a shared experience than watching the Cup final. Like it felt like everybody had some skin in the game because all the teams were active and everybody was talking about what was going on television. People were sharing screenshots of what was going on with Bucci and Weeksy and PK. And it was just really fun to see. The gist of it was always, let's give hockey fans a night. And let's have everybody kind of get a chance to watch all these games and enjoy it, and start at 6 and end at like 2 a.m. on the East Coast or whatever the night's game ended. And I think they hit the nail on the head last night. Like it felt like a shared experience amongst hockey fans, especially when you go on social media. And like that's all you can ask for, man. I thought they really did a great job from conception of this thing a few years ago. Shout out to my boy Eric Lowe. To execution last night with everybody that was in the booth and on the set. So that was just great.
Yeah. Eric Lowe works in the programming department, and he was a big part in piecing all of this together. There were a lot of people behind the scenes that deserve a lot of credit, from the producers, directors, all the way to people in the front office. This was not an easy lift. It's not my story to tell. I'm sure that there will be podcasts or whatever, you know, there's interviews out there that you can seek out, but this was not an easy lift to put together. You can only imagine how to stagger start times like this and get every team playing and things like that. So shout out to everybody who made it happen.
Arda, dare I say it was the greatest thing to ever be broadcast on television? Is that an overreaction in your
Oh
estimation,
my,
Arda?
I think you're right on the money by saying that. There's no overreaction in that statement whatsoever, which brings us to what we would like to focus on right now. NHL overreactions. We had every team play on Tuesday. And so why not go around the league and give some thoughts and determine whether these thoughts, Wish, are overreactions or a reasonable conclusion. Allow me to start, Mr. Greg Wyshynski. I believe this one absolutely falls under the reasonable conclusion category because I'm going to say that the Boston Bruins will finish the season 82-0.
All right,
it's happening.
I'm gonna call this one a mild overreaction. I'm gonna split the difference because while I don't believe they're gonna finish 82-0, and while I don't believe they're even gonna be like 21-3-1 or wherever the hell they were after like 24, 25 games last season, I do think that again our preseason prognostication of the Bruins being pretty damn good is coming true. I mean, you are seeing the defensive foundation of this team give them what they need. You are seeing some great play from a rookie I'm going to mention in a few minutes, and then also some of the forwards up front. Like, they're getting the job done. They're playing with confidence. And the Jim Montgomery system that was the basis for that regular season record that they set last year is still there, still effective, and has gotten the Bruins off the blocks correctly. So not 82-0, probably not a Stanley Cup champion, but not an overreaction to say the Bruins are still pretty damn good.
No, and for everyone that's saying that they've had an easy start to the season, there's still NHL teams, and there's still some good teams sprinkled in there. They did double up on the Kings, for example, and they beat the Predators. So, like, there are teams in there that it's yes, they played the Hawks twice, but they played the Hawks with Connor Bedard and all that spotlight on them. So they handled it quite well. What's your first possible overreaction?
Dude, a win's a win. Strength of schedule in the NHL, I never buy it. Like, a team can win every night when they step on the ice. If you get the dubs, you get the dubs.
Totally true.
You know who's not getting the dubs? You know who's not getting the dubs? The Edmonton Oilers. Is it an overreaction to say that the Oilers will actually miss the playoffs? My uncrowned sweet kings of hockey in Edmonton, the team I said would win the cup not only last year, but also this year, that they might miss the playoffs. Is that an overreaction, Arda?
I feel like I will put that under mild as well. I still don't buy the fact that them stumbling out of the gates means that they're going to miss the playoffs entirely. If anything, it makes me question their cup aspirations. The cup or bust situation is more concerning to me based on their start than them actually making or missing the playoffs, I should say. But if this continues up until, you mentioned this last podcast, if this continues up until American Thanksgiving, then we have a problem. Then that's another month away. So, but what makes you say this, though?
I have to say it's an overreaction for my own mental health because, like,
well, we picked the Oilers to win. Yes, I know.
I don't know what I would do with myself if this team missed the playoffs. Like, I granted, there's like a Wyshynski jinx that exists in certain fan bases, but I mean, I might have to go see an exorcist or something with the jinx I put on this team if I pick them to win the cup and they miss the playoffs. Look, one stat really stood out to me when I was researching the Oilers before the show. Their underlying numbers at 5-on-5 are okay. Like they are 11th, for example, in preventing high danger shot attempts. That's kind of mid, but it's not terrible. You know what's terrible? That their goalies are 32nd in the league in high danger save percentage. Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell have combined for an unfathomable 605 save percentage on high danger scoring chances. They're the only team in the league under 700. Now, I know that Campbell's played well in fits and spurts for the Oilers. I know that there's some sense of like they've got bigger problems in the goaltending, which is something you can't often say about the Oilers. But the goaltending is a problem. And this stat in particular tells you that when the chips are down, when they need to get a save, they're not getting a save. And that's kind of been the story of this team for 2 seasons.
Yeah, that's really alarming. And that squarely puts a concern in one area that Oilers fans have always had a concern in. is what will happen in net. Not to make this, well, what does this mean for the Maple Leafs, as a lot of people do? Very similar statistic to the Leafs. They actually have a low amount of high danger chances, but a lot of medium danger chances allowed. And that's where a lot of their goals allowed are coming from. So very obviously concerns on both camps between the pipes, what will happen there. But yeah, this is certainly alarming. All right. This one we can even just skip through, Wish. Okay. I'm just going to briefly mention it because there's really nothing to debate here. I've seen enough from this season, particularly during Frozen Frenzy, taking the reigning Cup champs to the limit, shorthanded prowess early on in the season. The Philadelphia Flyers are a playoff team. Let's go.
Oh boy, that is overreaction.
That is not an overreaction, Wish. Come on.
I'm telling you, Brooksy, we can be a playoff team. Listen, I love Torts. We love Torts, former coworker.
Yes.
I got a story on the Flyers out today on ESPN.com that specifically talks about one thing that Keith Jones and Danny Briere have brought to this franchise, which is a sense of honesty. Keith Jones told me that he's the new president of the Flyers, told me that in the past, the team would try to market itself to Philadelphia sports fans by trying to overpromise. And not only that, trying to meet what they believed were the expectations of the fans by talking about being a cup contender in seasons in which obviously they could not be a cup contender. So they were honest with him this time. We're rebuilding. Come see a competitive team play, but let it be known that we're a rebuilding team. So, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if your prediction is true, Arda, then these guys are liars. They are a cup contender, but I don't believe they are. I think what you've seen from the Flyers is what you're going to get from them, which is great goaltending from Carter Hart, a very dependably hardworking effort from a John Tortorella team, and a team that desperately needs more centers. Has a blue line that certainly needs some reinforcement and will eventually fade back to the pack.
But if they have the level of compete and heart that they have, no pun intended, by the way, that they have in the first few games, and this is what you see all season, even if they lose a bunch of close games, that's not a bad season. I would say that would be a win for the Flyers based on their projections coming in, for sure.
Everybody loves an underdog in Philly. I mean, they built a statue to one, you know, so.
Yes, which I always take a picture with whenever I visit Philadelphia. What is your last possible overreaction?
So I was watching a little bit of the Ottawa Senators last night, getting beat by Buffalo. By last night, I mean Tuesday night. And it occurs to me that a guy who is normally at the top of everybody's hot seat list for a coach potentially being fired might actually be fired. I think DJ Smith will be the first coach fired. Is that an overreaction or a reasonable conclusion, Arda?
Depends if they win or not. Honestly, that's really it. I think you're right. If this team continues to struggle, I think a lot of people have high expectations for the Senators. But if they continue to lose, and especially if they continue to lose to teams that people believe they should win against, and they go on a stretch, that this always happens, right? We see this kind of conversation every year. So I think you're right in saying that. In particular, look, I know this is a very volatile position. I know that the turnover, is very high. But DJ Smith has always been in these conversations for the last few seasons, at least the last couple seasons, right? Like in terms of who's on the hot seat, which coach is on the hot seat. DJ Smith just happens to be on that list, even if it's not the top of the list. But he's always on the list. He was on the list last year when we were doing this, Wish.
Well, they're getting dusted right now by the Red Wings and the Sabres a little bit. Now that the Sabres have turned things around, and that who's going to break out of the 3-team pack in the bottom of the Atlantic. And there was a moment in the Buffalo game that I still can't wrap my brain around. They forgot to tell Anton Forsberg he wasn't going to go back out and play, which is a very, very, very embarrassing thing to happen if you're a coach. It was called out by our friend Mike McKenna in a pretty severe way last night as it being an embarrassment to the organization. When you see a mistake like that made, it reflects very poorly on what is already a maligned coach. 12th in expected goals, 17th in expected goals against. Again, not exactly sterling numbers for the Senators off the blocks. Is it time? The thing that worries me about Smith, Arda, is they've got a new owner. They've got expectations. those two things combined usually do not mean that the coach is going to have a long shelf life if the team struggles. And hey, we've got a well-coiffed man on that bench, formerly of the New York Islanders, hasn't coached since 2017. Is it Jack Capuano time in Ottawa?
Could very well be. And that was on the night, by the way. They had the awesome goalie ceremonial face-off for Craig Anderson, who retired as an Ottawa Senator. Of course, he is a mentor. He works with the Buffalo Sabres organization. So that was a nice moment to start the game.
Yeah.
But then exactly as you laid out for the Senators. The Red Wings are sweeping the Art Ross and the Rocket Richard, Greg Wyshynski. Alex DeBrincat, clear favorite to win the Rocket. Dylan Larkin already in contention to win the Art Ross, with apologies to Jack Hughes and Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid when he returns. The Red Wings have this one in the bag already this early in the season. Am I overreacting?
Reasonable conclusion. They got special chemistry, man. Like, watching those two kids go has been one of the true joys of the early part of the season. DeBrincat is showing what can happen when he plays with an elite offensive talent. Larkin, same deal, to finally have a goal scorer on his line that can find the spaces to get shots away. Like we talked about it last game, or last podcast rather, the fact that these two have incredible chemistry off the hop together. And sometimes that's all you need, man. Sometimes you just need one line or a couple guys to click. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that what you just predicted could come true. I mean, if the Detroit is that team, like the Devils, like the Kraken, that are the team that finds a way to click offensively and score their way out of problems, well, someone's doing the scoring, and it's probably DeBrincat and Larkin. And your prediction that DeBrincat hits 50 is looking pretty damn good right now, too.
Yeah, no kidding. And if that happens, by the way, Yzerman wins GM of the year. Maybe Derek Lalonde wins Coach of the Year. Like, that's all in play if this happens. If the Red Wings make the playoffs, if those two players are sniffing the vicinity of the Rocket and the Art Ross, that definitely is happening. What's your last one?
My last one is that Connor Bedard will not win the Calder. Is that a reasonable conclusion or overreaction at this point?
No, you've been banging this drum since before the season started. You were the one that said that Logan Cooley could steal the rookie points total from Connor Bedard. You were the one that said if Bedard got the goals, then Cooley could absolutely get the points.
Look, I didn't expect this prediction to boomerang back to Wish is a Genius from you, but I'll
yes,
take
you
it.
Did.
I'll take it. Tied with Fantilli in points as we do this podcast, trailing Logan Cooley in points as we do this podcast. And here comes Matthew Petra of the Boston Bruins, centering a line with Brad Marchand and cooking offensively. And again, the thing I keep telling you guys about this award, it's about stats and it's about the narrative. The narrative for Bedard is you've got to be the best. And if you hit your numbers, you're going to win the Calder. The narrative for Fantilli is you dropped in the draft and now you're showing everybody what you're made of. The narrative for Cooley is you're on the Coyotes. The narrative for Petra is the Boston Bruins are a donut after Bergeron and Krejci retired. You've moved up and you've saved the day by playing well at center. So there are some storylines and some stats that are clearly going to boost the cases of others. And I agree, reasonable conclusion that Connor Bedard will not win the Calder at this point, as stated before the season.
And that's also because he doesn't have a hot start. Like if he had an Austin Matthews-esque start, I think we'd already be saying, it's in the bag. Bedard's got it. But now he's leaving the door open for this kind of debate.
Because the Blackhawks are terrible. I mean, let's be honest. Like that was always the thing that we had to caveat with Bedard is that he's going to get his shots, he's going to get his goals, but the Blackhawks are terrible, and that's going to come home to roost at some point statistically for him.
Yeah. An update on the Pride tape ban in the National Hockey League. The NHL has reversed its policy on the use of colored stick tape to represent causes during games and practices. Here is the statement, quote, after consultation with the NHL Players Association and the NHL Player Inclusion Coalition, players will now have the option to voluntarily represent social causes with their stick tape throughout the season. This was in a league statement on Tuesday, Greg.
Yeah, big win for for logical, good conclusions. The two things I want to point out here as we wrap up Pride Tape, so to speak. Pressure works. The backlash against the initial announcement, which again was news that broke on opening night, so it was just maximum attention on this controversy. That brought the NHL, NHLPA, and the NHL Player Inclusion Coalition to discuss it last week. It was early last week when they had their discussion. What are we going to do about this Pride Tape thing? Because again, it was pressure from fans. It was pressure from players. Connor McDavid was one of the first guys to step up and say that he disagreed with not only the jersey policy, but the Pride Tape thing. The Oilers had been one of the teams at the forefront of using Pride Tape over the last several seasons. The story was getting coverage well outside of the hockey bubble. The pressure was on to correct what was, I think, in the eyes of a lot of the stakeholders in the league, kind of an unforced error by the NHL to overreach and ban Pride Tape. Then two things happened. Arizona Coyotes defenseman Travis Dermott bravely defied the policy by putting Pride Tape on his stick in a game over the weekend, and had some wonderful things to say about his reasoning in different interviews after that. And then on Monday, Scotiabank, a major NHL sponsor, announced it was giving away 5,000 rolls of Pride Tape across Canada to those, quote, who want to show their support for Pride and making hockey more inclusive. Again, when you have a major sponsor of the NHL going out and putting out Pride Tape and doing so in direct response to the ban, I have it sourced and on good authority that they've communicated with Pride Tape saying that this initiative was in reaction to the ban on Pride Tape. Those two things happen, then all of a sudden the policy is changing as of Tuesday. So pressure works. I think, whether it's fans, whether it's media, whether it's stakeholders, whether it's players, the idea that this got called out the way that it did made the NHL come back to the table and reassess the policy. So just keep that in mind going forward. And the second thing, too, is the King Clancy Memorial Trophy, Arda. You familiar with it?
Yes.
It's a sports award that's given annually to the NHL player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and who has made a significant humanitarian contribution to his community. Now, I've already seen some people reach out to me on social media and be like, hey, you're the guy who got John Scott into the All-Star game. How about we get Travis Dermott into the All-Star game? A wonderful idea. We did that bit already. Here's what I think. There's absolutely no way that Travis Dermott should not win the King Clancy Memorial Trophy this year. What this guy did, how he got the ball rolling, what he did for the community, the things that he said in the aftermath about honoring people in his family that are gay, and putting the emphasis on why it was important for players to have this freedom of expression during, Pride events, and also when they're not going on, just doing it on the ice when they want to. Was really inspiring and just the kind. He was the perfect guy, the perfect messenger for all of this. And I think the King Clancy Memorial Trophy exists to reward people like this. And I think Travis has earned it this season already.
And in large part due to what Travis did on the ice during an NHL game, the NHL has reversed course, and now players are allowed to use colored stick tape to represent causes during games and practices and warm-ups this season. So we're about to show you an interview here that we just conducted with Trent Sullivan, who was named the 21st Duck for the 2023-2024 season. This is a ceremonial position that is filled every year with the Anaheim Ducks, an honorary fan that people can rally around, usually somebody that has a very inspirational story. And Trent certainly has that. He was born with a congenital heart defect and needed a heart transplant when he was just days old. Since then, he has also undergone a kidney transplant, pacemaker surgery, and chemotherapy. Sullivan is basically a walking, talking miracle, and he turned 30 years old this year. He is a diehard Anaheim Ducks fan, and he joins us now on The Drop. What an honor for Wish and I here on The Drop on ESPN to be joined by Trent Sullivan, who has been named the 21st Duck for the 2023-2024 season. Of course, Trent, you're going to come on The Drop and you're going to be decked with the new beautiful eggplant purple Anaheim Ducks jersey. Thanks for being here, man. And let's start right with being the 21st Duck, man. Like, how did that come about, and what does that mean to you?
Honestly, it really means the fact that my story spoke out to people, and the fact that what I go through is such an inspiration to a lot of other people. Like I said, not a lot of people understand what people like I go to, and they just think that you know, it's just a story, but realistically, it's my life story. And when I got to be the 21st Duck, I was sort of like, oh my gosh, like, how do I comprehend all of this? How do I like put this in my brain and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going on the ice. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna go hang out with the Anaheim Ducks team twice, type of deal, and get to go on the ice with shout out to Gudas.
Gudas is the man. He's the absolute man. So here's the thing I found curious about you, Trent. So when you met the Ducks, I read a quote that said it was like talking to old buds. Dude, these are NHL players, man. These are the guys that you're watching every night on your television. How did you keep it so chill meeting these guys in the locker room?
So to be really honest, the day it all happened, the morning it all happened, I had zero prep. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go in there, like, try my best, and just talk to them like I talk to like friends, type of deal. But my joke was like, yeah, except they're all professional NHL players. I'm just this guy coming to talk to them. It's like no big deal or anything like that.
That's awesome. And of course, one of the big reasons why you have been chosen as the 21st Duck is because you are a giant Anaheim Ducks fan. You love this team. You have always loved this team. So I would love for you to give us a description of what it's like to be an Anaheim Ducks fan. What does it mean to be an Anaheim Ducks fan?
I would say for me, it's I've been following sport for a long time. Again, I think I started following when I was able to understand hockey a little bit. But for me, I think it's I love the Ducks. It's my favorite. Actually, to be honest, hockey is probably one of my favorite sports because it's probably more interesting than other sports. It's like,
Now you're talking.
Sorry, not to downplay everyone else, but I think hockey is probably one of the greatest sports of all time. It's just more interesting to see in person than it is watching on TV, in my personal opinion, because you're there to experience it all the noises, all the sounds, and to see the team, go out and do their hardest and play well. I like going in person because watching on television is like not as fun. You're like, oh, okay.
Except on ESPN, right, Trent? On ESPN,
right?
The hockey's incredible.
We're just kidding, Trent. We're just kidding.
No problem.
Hey, Trent, I've often talked to athletes that are on the other side of the kind of night that you had, that welcome people to the locker room, to the game, and their experiences. And I've always found that the players get a little emotional, get a little touched when they meet folks like you. From your perspective, did you see that? Did you see players kind of connecting with you, hearing your story? Did you hear from them at all during your time with the Ducks?
So I really didn't get to talk to them because the day was a long day, but I could see that, excuse myself, because I'm trying to remember the player who was sitting next to me. I think it really meant a lot to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because cool. He was like understanding, like, oh my gosh, this is what this guy goes through, and the fact it's like he has an extraordinary story, and the fact that, like he said, like I can learn from him, type of deal. Like, that's what meant a lot, is from a again, professional NHL players saying, hey, I can learn from this guy's story type of deal, really means a lot. It means that my story inspires others.
Yeah. Your story inspires everyone, us, professional athletes, human beings, right?
Yeah.
Like and hockey players are very down to earth in that way as well, right? Like by and large, it's just really cool to hear you echo that in your meetings with the Anaheim Ducks, which I'm sure will continue all through the season.
Yeah.
The go
which
ahead,
is
please.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. The one thing was very cool about meeting the team for the first time was Radko Gudas. I think he's kind of my favorite so far because he's such a humble guy. He's such a humble guy. I mean, he's a pure beast on the ice, but in person, he's just this humble, like teddy bear. And the coolest thing is he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, brother, how's it going? You wanna go with me on the ice?" I'm like, "Sure." Like, I don't know who you are at first, but now I know. I'm like, now I know. So yeah, it was really cool. Like that day when I got to go on the ice with the guys, and just telling me different things. And so shout out to Gudas, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I will say this one fan base that will not describe him as a teddy bear are Maple Leafs fans, especially what happened at the very end of that series last season. But I love that there's at least one person in the world that will describe Radko Gudas as a teddy bear.
I know.
That's
Well,
awesome.
that's the thing. It's like if you haven't met him in person, type of deal. That's the difference. Or if you're seeing him as a player, then I totally understand.
There you go. He's the kind of guy you hate playing against. Because it looks like he eats human flesh. But the guy that you love having on your team. And that's exactly how you describe him. Exactly.
Yeah, no. And again, it was such a cool guy. I mean, like I said, shout out to Gudas in general, because he was the one that got me to go on and helped me out with the whole deal and made me feel comfortable.
That's awesome.
Just being around people.
That's awesome. All right, some quick questions here at the end. You are a Duck super fan, so I need to ask you, in the history of Anaheim Ducks / Mighty Ducks of Anaheim jerseys, what was your favorite look for the team?
I have two. I liked this year's, and then I liked the Mighty Ducks, the blue and white. When
iconic. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bring it back.
I know that's so it's like looking at all the different jerseys. I'm like, oh.
And then I also wanted to ask you a general NHL question as a hockey fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make you commissioner for a day. You are, well, I don't want to say you're Gary Bettman, but you are Commissioner Trent. And you get to change one rule in hockey. What rule would you change?
To be honest, I would honestly keep it the way it is because it's better. It's better. It's honestly, I like the way it is. There's nothing that needs to change. I like the fight. I like the fact that now they can fight full blown is awesome. So yeah.
You hear that, coach's challenge? It's sticking around forevermore.
There you go. Yeah.
Thanks to Commissioner Trent. I love it.
Trapezoid, you're fine. Over the glass with the puck, you're fine. Commissioner Trent says we are in a good place.
We are in a great place. I love to hear it. One last thing from me. It's awesome. One of your dreams come true, Trent, to be able to hang out with the Anaheim Ducks, the team. And now you get to go to as many games as you want as part of being the 21st Duck this season, which is awesome. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on what it means to you. You mentioned this to us off camera before we started here. The other person that you would love to meet is Rainn Wilson, of course, famous for playing Dwight on The Office. And you will actually have a chance to meet him in a couple months, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a diehard Office fan. I mean, Ducks Office fan, but I have always wanted to meet at least one of the 4 originals, and the fact that I actually get to do that, it's super cool. It's I'm still trying to figure out what for him to sign, and I only got like 2 months to go.
Well, first, my suggestion would be have him sign a Ducks jersey. I think that would be really cool. That'll be unique, right? So you're going to meet him at Comic-Con, I believe, coming up. And really, the reason why we asked this is so we could post it on social media and tag Rainn Wilson, make him aware that you will be there, and hopefully it's a very extra special experience for you. A very special experience to meet him.
I hope out of let's see, there's about 10,000 Comic-Con goers. I mean, it's LA Comic-Con. It's not it's not San Diego Comic-Con. Right. But yeah, LA Comic-Con is like a huge deal. So yeah, out of the 10,000, I hope he points out. I'm like, oh hey, I saw your story.
There you go. Exactly. And we're gonna help make that happen. By the way, suggestions. Obviously a stapler. Get him to sign a stapler. Oh my gosh. Obviously, also if you can find like a plastic beat, like you go to stores where they have like plastic food, or wax food. If you can find like a wax beat.
The best part would be if just have him sign his bobblehead that Angela gives him for Valentine's Day.
Yes, that's a good one too. Also bring a box of Count Chocula and have him sign that. That'd be great.
I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm like, oh my God, I have so many ideas now.
There you go. Trent, we really appreciate you joining us. Your story is incredibly inspiring. Not just, as you mentioned, the Anaheim Ducks players or other NHL players, but to us as well. Congratulations on being named the 21st Duck. I hope I see you at every home game this season, and you get to do awesome things.
I get to see everyone more at the 21st Duck, or 20. I am the 21st Duck. I am sorry. The 2023-2024 season for the Anaheim Ducks too. Like I said, I plan on going on next Wednesday, which is another home game with some friends. So I'll be there.
Nope. Thank you, Trent. Our thanks again to Trent for joining us on the show. That was a lot of fun. We appreciate you being with us, and I hope that you go to every single home game this year, man.
Yeah, and the takeaway, obviously, if you're an NHL player and you see Radko Gudas menacing you, just give him a hug. He's a big teddy bear. It's not going to hurt you.
Apparently. He's not going to yell in your face. No. He'll hug you back. Speaking of hugs, will we see any hugs between the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames? Probably not, but they are playing in the latest edition of the Heritage Classic, the 2023 Tim Hortons NHL Heritage Classic, a rivalry game between the Oilers and the Flames, the Battle of Alberta. We have now seen the jerseys, the sweaters that they will be wearing, the Heritage Classic sweaters for the Calgary Flames. They have a something that we've seen many other NHL teams do, the logo, the wording, and a circle. That is very commonplace around the league. The Edmonton Oilers have a more history-inspired jersey, digging back to Edmonton hockey history, with the trim of old-timey hockey there as well. What do you think of these designs?
The Oilers jersey, for those who haven't seen it, it's like a banner that says Edmonton Oilers, and then above it is an oil drop where the player's jersey number goes on. That's the crest. It was inspired by the historic Edmonton Mercury's team that won gold in the 1952 Olympics. So we're going to apply the classic pass-fail here. Let's go to the Calgary one first, because this is an easy pass for me. I don't know about you. I know the circle crest thing has become cliche. We've seen it on a ton of third jerseys and reverse retro jerseys, but it looks real classy here. I like the striping. I like the shoulders. I like the entirety of the kit. I think we can give Calgary a pass here. Yes?
I think so. This is the problem. And the Flames jerseys are inspired by the Calgary Stampeders hockey team of the 50s and 60s. My problem when adjudicating jersey designs are, number one, I have my opinion on how they look regardless of backstory. So I'm just judging them aesthetically, period. But then number two, it's difficult for me to have a really strong negative opinion about a design if there's a historical connection to it, because I do love the historical connection. I think that's cool. Like in the case of the Flames jersey, I give it sure. I mean, this design is very common, so I'm kind of okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's Flames fans will like design. It's a safe design, but the only thing I'll say to your point, and it's a good one, is that if the font is directly related to the Stampeders jerseys, then I can understand it. Because otherwise, it's kind of like there's a chance you could have done something really cool and retro with the font a little bit more. I'm a font guy. I'm a writer. So that's maybe my only complaint with the jersey is the font's kind of normy. But overall, the look is pretty good. Now, the Oilers one, this is a tough one for me because there's some things I really like about the jersey. I'm actually kind of a fan of this like uniform number on the front and the oil drop thing. When you see the jersey without the number, I saw it in the window of the NHL store the other day. It looks really weird, but like when you put a 97 in it or whatever, if McDavid played in the game, it's pretty cool. But there are a couple of things I don't like. I don't like the big like horizon of blue that you have near the neckline because of where the logo is. I also don't like that if you're wearing a letter, the letter kind of overlaps the shoulder and the jersey in a kind of an awkward way. And then while the Dallas Stars pulled off the old-timey leather pants and glove look with their Cotton Bowl outdoor game jerseys, yes, I thought those were dope. Like these ones, for some reason, it almost looks like they ran out of money. Like it's like we're gonna just dig up something out of the supply closet in the backyard and give it to you guys. I don't know, it doesn't really work with this jersey for some reason. So I unfortunately have to give, on top of everything else that's happening to the Oilers these days, Arda, I have to give the Oilers a fail here on their Heritage Classic jersey.
If I was an Oilers fan, I'd probably pass on buying this particular jersey sweater. I agree with you. The leather, I love the leather look. I think that it's usually always a hit. For this one, I get it. Look, it's the Edmonton Mercury's. I understand the backstory. I think that part is really cool. And that's why I'm inclined to give it a pass. But if I was an Oilers fan, I don't think I would go and buy this jersey, is all I'm saying. And the leather doesn't match it as well as I would hope, put it that way.
Having not seen the Mercury's, like, did the Mercury, like, is that drop supposed to be Mercury then? Like, is that what the look was back in 1952? I doubt it, but I don't know. It's whatever. It's not the greatest.
The
thing.
Edmonton Mercury's logo is very like the Edmonton Oilers, that same horseshoe with a maple leaf in the middle.
Oh, you can't have that.
So it's not an oil. Right.
So,
yeah. They changed it with an oil drop,
I
suppose.
They updated the leaf to oil. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a smart decision. Look, bottom line, let's just be honest with the listeners. If it's not the Todd McFarlane Oilers throwback jersey, like, what are we doing? Just keep wearing that. It's one of the greatest jerseys of all time. The oil in the thing, it's great.
That's it for us here on The Drop. Remember, we're back next Tuesday. Enjoy the weekend of hockey. It should be a fun one. Please subscribe to the NHL on ESPN feeds. Make sure to rate and review the show. There were a lot of people that have reviewed the show lately. We very much appreciate it, Wish. That was really cool to see.
Very cool to see, and it does help people find the show. And thanks again for the support. I mean, we're shooting up the old rankings on some of these podcasting platforms, which is always good to see as someone who is very happy to have a hockey podcast again.
Indeed. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care.